Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Nittai Sacinandana Nittai Sacinandana Nittai Sacinandana Gaura Hari. Jaya Nittai Sacinandana Nittai Sacinandana Nittai Sacinandana Gaura Hari. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagalpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirael Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So we will be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, verse 10 and 11. So I seek for your blessings and prayers so that I can be of a proper instrument of the Guru Parampara, Guru and Krishna in glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam for my own purification and the pleasure of the devotees. So I will share the screen. 10, 11, 12. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Salsangan Mukta Dussango Hatum Not Sahate Buddha Kirtyamanam Yasho Yasya Sakrida Karnyarochanam Tasminyastadhiyah Partha Saheran Viraham Katham Darishanasparish Samlapa Shayanasana Bhojanai Satsangan Mukta Dussango Hatum Notsahate Buddha Kirtyamanam Yasho Yasya Sakrida Karnyarochanam Tasminyastadhiyah Partha Saheran Viraham Katham Darishanasparish Samlapa Shayanasana Bhojanai Satsangan Mukta Dussango Hatum Notsahate Buddha Kirtyamanam Yasho Yasya Sakrida Karnyarochanam Tasminyastadhiyah Partha Saheran Viraham Katham Darishanasparish Samlapa Shayanasana Bhojanai. So anybody would like to chant, devotees?
Thanks to Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Satsangan Mukta Dussango Hatum No Sahate Buddha Kirtyamanam Yasho Yasya Sakrit Akarna Rochanam Tasmin Nastadhiya Partha Sahiran Viraham Katham Darshana Sparsha Samlapa Shayana Shana Bhojanahi.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anybody else?
Satsangan Mukta Dushango Hatum No Sahate Buddha Kityamanam Yasho Yasya Sakruda Kanyarochanam Tashminyasta Dhiyah Partha Saheran Viraham Katam Darshana Sparsha Samlapa Sayana Sanabhojanai. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. Anybody? One more?
I can try.
Yes, Prabhu, please.
Satsanga Mukta Dasanga Hatam Na Utashte Pamtaha Krityamanam Yasya Yasya Shakrita Karanaya Rachanam Tashmin Yastadiya Partha Sahiran Viram Katam Darshana Sparsa Samlapa Shayan Ashanam Bhojanaya.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, these are very, all the verses are very nice in Srimad Bhagavatam. This verse especially speaks about the glories of hearing. So this is very nice verse in that sense. I'll read the word by word. Satsangat, by the association of pure devotees, Mukta Dussangaha, freed from bad materialistic association, Hatum, to give up, Na Utsahate, never attempts, Buddha, one who has understood the Lord, Kirtyamanam, glorifying, Yashaha, fame, Yasya, whose, Sakrit, once only, Akarnya, hearing only, Rochanam, pleasing, Tasmin, unto him, Nyastadhiya, one who has given his mind unto him, Parthaha, the sons of Pritha, Saheran, can tolerate, Viraham, separation, Katham, how, Darshana, seeing face to face, Sparsha, touching, Samlapa, conversing, Shayana, sleeping, Asana, sitting, Bhojanai, dining together. So, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation: the intelligent who have understood the Supreme Lord in association with pure devotees and have become freed from bad materialistic association can never avoid hearing the glories of the Lord, even though they have heard them only once. How then could the Pandavas tolerate his separation? For they had been intimately associated with his person, seeing him face to face, touching him, conversing with him, and sleeping, sitting, and dining with him. Purport: the living being's constitutional position is one of serving a superior. He is obliged to serve by force the dictates of illusory material energy in different phases of sense gratification. And in serving the senses, he is never tired. Even though he may be tired, the illusory energy perpetually forces him to do so without being satisfied. There is no end to such sense gratificatory business, and the conditioned soul becomes entangled in such servitude without hope of release. The release is only effected by association with pure devotees. By such association, one is gradually promoted to his transcendental consciousness. Thus, he can know that his eternal position is to render service unto the Lord and not to the perverted senses in the capacity of lust, anger, desire to lord it over, etc. Material society, friendship, and love are all different phases of lust. Home, country, family, society, wealth, and all sorts of corollaries are all causes of bondage in the material world, where the threefold miseries of life are concomitant factors. By associating with pure devotees and by hearing them submissively, attachment for material enjoyment becomes slackened, and attraction for hearing about the transcendental activities of the Lord becomes prominent. Once they will go on progressively without stoppage like fire and gunpowder. It is said that Hari, the personality of Godhead, is so transcendently attractive that even those who are self-satisfied by self-realization and are factually liberated from all material bondage also become devotees of the Lord. Under the circumstances, it is easily understood what must have been the position of the Pandavas, who were constant companions of the Lord. They could not even think of separation from Sri Krishna, since the attraction was more intense for them because of continuous personal contact. His remembrance by his form, quality, name, fame, pastimes, etc. is also attractive for the pure devotee, so much so that he forgets all forms, quality, name, fame, and activities of the mundane world. And due to his mature association with pure devotees, he is not out of contact with the Lord for a moment. Just read the translation once again. The intelligent who have understood a Supreme Lord in association with pure devotees and have become freed from bad materialistic association can never avoid hearing the glories of the Lord, even though they have heard them only once. How then could the Pandavas tolerate his separation? For they had been intimately associated with his person, seeing him face to face, touching him, conversing with him, and sleeping, sitting, and dining with him. So this verse is so special in the sense that the glories of the hearing of Krishna Katha is very nicely described, the significance and the importance. So Pandavas are anticipating a separation from Krishna, and in the previous verse several personalities were listed, and then here the reason is mentioned here, especially for Pandavas. Krishna was so intimately interacting with them because he is also a cousin of the Pandavas. And Arjuna describes this in Bhagavad Gita when he was given the divine opportunity to see the universal form, and then by realizing the position of Krishna, he was sort of lamenting that I was so close to you, as if you are my friend, and playing together, sleeping together, eating together, etc., etc. Please forgive me, etc. So we know that this was happening throughout their life. They had Krishna's association, even though they were going through several difficult situations. Krishna was there to protect them also, as the Supreme Lord and their ultimate protector. Same time, Krishna was having this close, friendly relationship with Pandavas especially. And in the translation, it describes that the intelligent who have understood the Supreme Lord in association with pure devotees. So it is very clear that we need to have Supreme Lord along with his associates. And even the Supreme Lord, Krishna himself, is always having association with his intimate devotees. Even while he descends to this material world, he comes with his associates, and then he will demonstrate pastimes with his associates. And Krishna likes one to be a devotee of his devotee than to become a direct devotee of the Lord. So that much is the significance of the association of pure devotees. And also mukta dussango, the dussango means bad materialistic association. If somebody is freed of all materialistic association, they are so much attached to hearing the glories of the Lord, even though they have heard only once. If someone has heard once the glories of Krishna, then they will never feel like not hearing Krishna Katha, or positively they will always would like to hear Krishna Katha. That much is the potency of Krishna Katha. So here Pandavas are not able to tolerate his separation because of their intimate association. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada also mentions, even though somebody may not have those kind of physical intimate association, but by chanting the holy name of the Lord, or forms, or hearing the Krishna Katha, that is also intimate association. So someone can get purified to the fullest extent. So as Prabhupada mentioned in the last line, his remembrance by his form, quality, name, fame, pastimes, etc. is also attractive for the pure devotee. To the same extent, because separation from Krishna is another way of connecting to Krishna that intensifies the love of the pure devotee. So Krishna does that many times with his associates, including the gopis and Srimati Radharani also. And that's how we see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is having the topmost ecstasy in having that vipralambha bhava, mood of separation with Krishna. So that is also an ecstasy. But Prabhupada mentions, yes, we can remember Krishna by his form or his qualities, name, fame, pastimes, etc. So once someone asked Prabhupada about why do we need temple, if because it is described that just by chanting the holy name we can get the face-to-face darshan of Krishna, or even we can enjoy the maximum happiness and we can be connected to Krishna just by the holy name, then why do we need temple, etc. So Prabhupada told, as a conditioned soul, we don't have that divine opportunity to see Krishna face to face at present, at least. So Krishna is providing us that facility to see him face to face in his Archa Vigraha deity form. So that's why temple is also important, and we are supposed to worship the deities at home and also in temple and take part in various festivals, etc. And temple is used for congregating devotees and have Krishna Katha and Kirtan and have prasadam together and study the literatures, scriptures, etc. So many purposes, but Krishna wants us to give that opportunity even when we are in this impure form, in the conditioned state. So there are many verses which describes the glories of the holy name and also glories of hearing Krishna Katha. It is also described that while chanting the holy name, side by side we are supposed to hear the glories of Krishna's pastimes and the pastimes of his devotees. They are one and the same. It is like Krishna and Radharani. Similarly, Krishna's holy name, which is Krishna himself, and the Krishna Katha is, Hari Katha is same as Srimati Radharani. That is what Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj mentioned. So we are supposed to give equal position to Hari Katha and chanting of the holy name. So we often mention hearing and chanting together, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, but the first two will make sure the rest of the 7 will be happening. But the first two are almost same. We might start with chanting the holy name, but then we also hear the holy name itself. That is Hari Katha. Also the different pastimes is also Hari Katha. Now right in the Bhagavatam, the first canto, verse 2nd, which is the famous verse, very celebrated verse, starts with maybe I'll share this because it's very beautiful. Dharma projita kaitavotra. So this verse also describes about the glories of Harikatha. In the last line is Sadyo Hridyavarudyate etra kritibhi shishrushibhis tat kshanat. So we can, I don't read the whole, but you can see here Prabhupada translates it as soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam. By this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. So right from beginning, Bhagavatam is glorifying, hearing the Krishna Katha, Hari Katha itself. So of course, the purport is very elaborate and very nice. When we have time, we can read. Now, in Bhagavad Gita and also in Bhagavatam, the glories of Krishna Katha is being mentioned in several places. Of course, it's a never-ending description, and we can read that every time we read, we get new realizations and new tastes for hearing. So I'll describe some examples which inspired me. One of the example is when Narada Muni was instructing King Prachina Barhi. Part of that description is describing the story of King Puranjana, where it's an allegory and like analogical story where Narada Muni is instructing Prachina Barhi about the issues and problems in the material world and all those things. And finally, Puranjana realized that my scope of life is not, purpose of life is not for sense gratification, but it is for self-realization, and he will get self-realized later after struggling a lot. So, and then King Prachina Barhi asks Narada Muni to further explain the meaning of the story, the essence, and then Narada Muni describes, give a summary of the story, and then continuously describe the glories of the holy name and hearing of Krishna Katha. So one of that verse, which is from Canto 4, chapter 29, verse 38 and 39-40. So these three verses are really beautiful in connection with the hearing of the glories. So I'll just read the translation for the 38 verse. Of course, in that verse, it is described that Achyuta Kathashraya and Shrinvataha. So we know Shrinvataha means hearing. Achyuta Kathashraya, it is glories, Kathas, Hari Katha. Achyuta is Krishna. The translation is, O best of kings, one who is faithful, who is always hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always engaged in the culture of Krishna consciousness and in hearing of the Lord's activities, very soon becomes eligible to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. So here is the tip. How do you how we can achieve the darshan of Krishna face to face? Mainly practicing the devotional service, and here hearing is part of that, but emphasized here is hearing the activities of Lord. And in the next two verses, it's also mentioned Bhagavat Gunanu Kathana Shravana Vyagra Chetasaha. Vyagra Chetasaha means really eager, greatly eager to hear Bhagavat Gunanu Kathana, Krishna's Katha. So I'll just read the translation, even though verse is very beautiful. My dear king, in the place where pure devotees live, following the rules and regulations, and thus purely conscious and engaged with great eagerness in hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in that place, if one gets a chance to hear their constant flow of nectar, which is exactly like the waves of a river, one will forget the necessities of life, namely hunger and thirst, and become immune to all kinds of fear, lamentation, and illusion. So it is something like when we are extremely tired or exhausted by whatever situations in this material world, maybe by work or taking care of something. We are all very much familiar with that platform. We become tired so often. Suppose we are tired, and if we are able to touch the waves of the water in a nice river or pond or even at home, cool water, it'll refresh us and enliven us. So similarly, if we are already tired in the material world, so if we hear the Krishna Katha, Hari Katha, which is coming from the lotus mouth of a pure devotee, Shukamukhad Amritadrava Samyutam, the third verse of Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter. When it comes from Shukadeva Goswami's mouth, it is multiple times sweeter. Already it is sweeter. Like that, Hari Katha coming from the mouth of a pure devotee will give refreshness to our body and mind and heart. So that's what described here. And keyword here is great eagerness. Shravana Vyagra Chetasa, one who is really eager to hear and hear and chant the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the essence here. And along with following the rules and regulations, that way our consciousness will be purified and our focus will be one pointed just at the lotus feet of Krishna in the Harikatha and chanting. Our mind will not be distracted if we are following at least when we start practicing. That's why all these rules and regulations are being in some sense enforced, but at least recommended. That's a nice word, so that we can intensify our Krishna Katha Shravanam, and it'll purify our heart quickly. So in that purport itself, Prabhupada quotes the famous verse which glorifies Krishna Katha from Lord Kapila, Canto 3, 25th chapter, 25th verse. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti hrit karna rasayana katha. Hrit karna rasayana. So it is nectarian for our heart and ears, the Krishna Katha. So Prabhupada quotes that verse also. So there is a good connection between that verse and this one, when Narada Muni describes to Prachina Barhi. So there is a pastime which I read somewhere about the glories of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. There are several pastimes. Many of us must have heard different pastimes. So I'll describe maybe a couple of pastimes here. This one is about a very nice exalted devotee named Punyadhama. His name itself is holy place, Punyadhama. And he was living in a village somewhat close to Ganges, the river Ganga, maybe a few miles only. And he was very austere, simple living, and it's a very village long ago. So there was a very great devotee called Brihadhabha. He was very qualified in describing Srimad Bhagavatam from his pure heart, hearing from a pure devotee, like that people used to hear from his mouth. So Punyadhama, this nice devotee, he was very much attached to hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Very much means his life and soul was hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Along with that, he used to cook bhoga, offer to Krishna, and then serve prasadam to all those people who are coming to listen to this great devotee Brihadhabha. So he was intensely absorbed in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and then serving the devotees by cooking prasadam, giving to them, serving prasadam, etc. So one fine day, two pilgrims, they were visiting different tirthas. They came to that place and they heard about Punyadhama. He's very welcoming and nice devotee. So they thought, okay, they'll visit Punyadhama and take some rest there, have some prasadam, etc. So as soon as they came, Punyadhama gave a very warm welcome and asked about their well-being, etc. Gave them a seat, and then they washed their hands. He served prasadam, and then they were having some conversation. So these pilgrims, their main intention to visit was they wanted to go and take a dip in the river Ganga. They were not so much attracted to Srimad Bhagavatam hearing, etc. But this was their main intention. So they asked, do you know how far is river Ganga from here? So Punyadhama mentioned, I think it is around 3-4 miles. So they got, why he's telling, I think. So they asked, so have you gone there? So he told, no, I have never visited river Ganges. I've never taken darshan. I never got a dip in the Ganges river. And he told, I'm always engaged in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and serving devotees here. So these two pilgrims got really they got bewildered because their intention was, they thought dipping in Ganges is the highest, aim of life. That way we can be purified completely. It is true. So they sort of blasphemed this devotee directly, mentioning, we are feeling very unfortunate to visit your place because you have not even gone to Mother Ganges, even though it is so close, only few miles, whereas we are coming from hundreds and hundreds miles away just to get a dip in Ganges. So we are very ashamed of you, and we just want to leave. And then they just left, and then they walked towards the side of Ganges, and then they reached the river, bank of the Ganges, and they could see the Ganges river is completely dry. So they got surprised. They never heard of those part of Ganges getting dried up. So they thought, let's go to the Gangotri where the Ganges originates. So they walked and then reached there. There also they saw it is completely dry. So they felt very depressed. Oh, we came all the way so many miles walking and wanted to take dip in Ganges, and there is no water. So they prayed to Mother Ganga, dear Mother Ganga, please give us your darshan and allow us to take a dip. So then Mother Ganga came to that place and before them, and then told them that you insulted a very pure devotee, Punyadhama, and due to that you are not qualified to take a dip in my water. Now you have to go back and seek for forgiveness. So then they realized the importance and significance of the pure devotee Punyadhama. So they quickly went back and then paid obeisances at his lotus feet and asked for forgiveness. But Punyadhama, being a pure devotee, so humble, he was not thinking anything bad about these two pilgrims. So he quickly accepted them, and he invited them to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. By that time Brihadhaba was speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. So these two devotees followed his instruction. Now they have full faith in Punyadhama. So they spend time, not days or weeks or months, but they spend around 2 years in that ashram hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and having nice prasadam and nice devotee association. And then along with Punyadhama, one day they went to the river Ganges, and they were able to see nicely flowing river, and they took a dip, and they were happy also. So this describes that even Harikatha is better than just taking a dip in Ganges. Dip in Ganges has its own importance and potency. It is purifying, but Mother Ganges itself, herself, is mentioning that she was waiting for getting a dust from the lotus feet of Punyadhama. She mentioned to them when they went in the first time. So even Bhagavatam also describes that. So Mother Ganges is looking for association of pure devotees. So that is the importance of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Now in Bhagavat Mahatmyam, which is from Padma Purana, part of Padma Purana, Uttarakhand of Padma Purana, there are several 5-6 chapters simply glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam. So in that Bhagavata Mahatmyam, there is a very nice verse. I'll chant the verse also. It's very simple to understand the verse, but that has got very nice instruction for all of us who are eager to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Vishvaso Guru Vakyeshu Swasmin Dinatva Bhavana Mano Dosha Jayaschaiva Kathaya Nischala Matihi. So there are 4 items being mentioned here in this verse. These are the qualities for properly hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. That's what being described here, along with glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is also mentioned. So the first one is Vishvaso Guru Vakyeshu. So we all know Vishvaso means faith in Guru Vakyam, words of Guru. Now Guru could be one's own Diksha Guru or Shiksha Guru or an Acharya, a pure devotee. So full faith in the words of Guru who is speaking Krishna Katha, Srimad Bhagavatam. Complete faith, absolute faith, and full trust in whatever instructions being given by the Guru. And then that way surrendering to the words of Guru. Srila Prabhupada also repeats this, and we know that this is the utmost, topmost instruction. If one would like to surrender to Krishna, follow the words of Guru. Then Swasmin Dinatva Bhavana. Dinatva means humility. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's the 6 limbs of surrender, also Dainya is one of the item. Humility. So we have to have that mood of humility while hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. First thing is faith in the words of the speaker, who is a bona fide Guru. And second thing, and so this is not a sequence. All these qualities have to be there. Humility, that means a feeling that I am very fallen, I'm not pure, I have so much contaminations, I don't know anything. I would like to know about Krishna. I would like to know about the associates of Krishna, their pastimes, and the significance of bhakti, etc., etc. So that feeling has to be there. Instead of sometimes people, when we distribute books, they will tell, oh, I know Krishna, I know Bhagavad Gita, I don't need any more book. I have the book at home, or I have heard, or my family has taught me this, or etc., etc. Yes, they might have heard and learned, but the description here is from Bhagavad Mahatma, means we should not feel that I know. We should feel that I don't know, I still have to know. It's a never-ending situation. We can see Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and all other Goswamis, Srila Prabhupada, all of them have demonstrated the humility, genuine humility, not concocted or not coming from their mind, but it is deep from their heart. They feel that they are very fallen. That's their feeling, because that is the symptom of pure devotion. One grows in their bhakti, and then this is the internally we'll feel more fallen and fallen. That's what we hear from acharyas. The third one is mano dosha jayaschaiva. So mano dosha means the contaminations of the mind, and jaya means victory over the mind. So we know that our mind is very fluctuating. It is extremely restless. When we start, at least myself, I take the bead and start chanting, and mind will start going here and there. And that can happen when we hear the Krishna Katha also. We might think about something else, or we look for something else, or we are waiting for, oh, when will this be done so I can have prasadam, or look somebody else who what that person is doing, or what's happening outside, or some sound is coming from outside. All these distractions are there around us, but instruction here is we have to control our mind. This is one of the qualification to properly hear Bhagavatam. And the fourth one is Kathaya Nischala Mati. So Nischala Mati means intelligence. So one-pointed intelligence, focus, concentrated hearing by using the intelligence. So it can mean several things, but all of us know what is meant by proper intelligence. Here means we are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. What is the purpose of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam? It is not just to hear some stories and have some good time, and sometimes some speakers may describe the stories very nicely with jokes and this, that. So yeah, I'm having some entertainment, and then after that let me go to my own business. That's not the purpose. That's not the right intelligence. But I'm hearing something. Yes, we might become happy by hearing. That's good. But what is there to learn? So I'm getting some information about Krishna and his devotees and pure devotional service. That is one thing. But more than that, how do I introspect and see where am I now? How do I apply this instruction, or what is the lesson from this pastime? How do I apply in my life, and things like that? So we'll think that and try to apply. That is the right intelligence while hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So having that intelligence is one of the qualification for properly hearing Bhagavatam. So these are described in Bhagavat Mahatmya. So I'll just repeat the 4 items again. One is faith in words of Guru or the speaker of Bhagavatam. Second thing, humility. And third, controlling the mind so that we can completely focus on the Katha. And fourth, with proper intelligence so that we can apply the lessons in our life. Now, somewhere else, it was mentioned that avoid the following 3 items when we hear. One is Vishaya. Vishaya means, expecting that, this speaker is going to entertain me with, so many jokes and nice stories and some new things and things like that. So that way I can have good fun time during this Krishna Katha. It's okay to enjoy the Krishna Katha. We should relish. Yes, we should relish the Krishna Katha, but that should not be the only aim of hearing the Bhagavatam. But this is for our own purification. And second thing, the Yasha, that means I'm hearing something. Oh, I'm hearing this story or this instruction. So let me take that instruction and speak these to others so that they will appreciate me and I'll become a big famous preacher. Again, that should not be our motive. We should hear the instruction, we should understand the story, but that's not for us to become more famous by sharing this to somebody else. Sharing is very important. We cannot keep it with ourselves, but the mood has to be mood of service, and I'm an instrument of Guru and Krishna in passing out this message which I heard, which I felt like good for me. So let me share this as without pride, in a mood of service. Not that I should become famous. That mood should not be there. And third one, Aishwarya, which is somewhat similar. It could be opulence or getting more power or influential, becoming influential by sharing what I heard from this Krishna Katha. So I'm hearing this lecture or this Bhagavatam so that I can learn something which I'll share to somebody else and I can influence them that way. Then they feel that, oh, I'm superior and they are inferior. So that should not be the intention also, which is somewhat similar. But when we hear, of course, we will share to others, but with the mood of humility. So I heard this, so I thought, this is nice instructions for me. So I thought of sharing this with you also. So one more pastime, which is very famous, that pastime is given in the Bhagavat Mahatmyam itself. So I'll share that pastime also, which is about a pure devotee called Gokarna and another person called Dhundhukari. Now they were brothers in some sense. So this pastime is given in Bhagavat Mahatmya to glorify the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam. So the context is Narada Muni is asking, I think 4 Kumaras, about the. It's again, they are just having some good conversation, as we hear from Bhagavad Gita, Satatam Kirtayanto Mam, or Machitta Madgata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Kathayantascha Mam Nityam Tushyanti Charamanti Cha. That's what devotees will do. Whenever they meet, they speak about Krishna and Krishna Katha, Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, etc. So here Narada Muni is speaking, having some conversation with 4 Kumaras, and Narada Muni is asking, can Srimad Bhagavatam liberate a ghost who doesn't have a body, gross body, only subtle body? So one of the Kumaras was describing this pastime about Dhundhukari and Gokarna. So here there was a person, very nice religious pious person called Atmadev. He had so much wealth and he was a nice, very humble personality. So he got married, and his wife was not so straightforward. She was a little bit crooked. But since Atmadev was very humble and soft-spoken, he did not correct his wife. But so they were kind of having good life with so much wealth and things like that. But they did not have any son or daughter. So they were very sad. So one day Atmadev was walking through the forest, and he prayed. And he prayed for, I think he met a sage. Yeah, he met a sage, and he prayed to the sage, mentioned that I have so much wealth, nice family, but I don't have a son. Please, do something. So the sage told, even if you get a son, you are not going to become happy. That is how you are, what do you call this? Karmic background, vidhi. So, don't try to get a child and expect that you will become happy. But then he was not, able to listen to that instruction. He was insisting that somehow or other we need a child, otherwise our life becomes horrible. still he doesn't take that, get the instruction from sage. So the sage told, okay, I'll give a fruit. This is a divine fruit. Give this to your wife, and then she will give birth to a child. But there is a condition that your wife has to be very austere, and wife has to be in the mode of goodness, because the sage has the vision, knew that wife is not in so much mode of goodness. So here, and then follow this vrata and things like that. So that time Atmadev took the fruit and then left. And the sage again reminded, hey Atmadev, I'm again repeating, don't expect that you will become happy by getting a child. But he was okay. He thought, that's not a big deal. And he went back and gave the fruit to his wife, and he started continuing his duties. The wife doesn't want to follow all those vratas and all. She was not in the mode of goodness. So she was wondering, how can I avoid eating this fruit and all. So once her sister came, and she was pregnant. So this wife was sharing this to her sister, and then they made a deal. So they are the Atmadev had a cow also. Even that cow was not giving birth to a calf. So that was another sad thing. So the sister and sister was not so rich also. Sister wanted money also. So sister told, if you give me money, once I give birth to my child, she was pregnant, no? I'll give this child to you as if this is your child. So you can show your husband that you got a child, and the fruit you don't eat, if you don't want, we can give this to the cow. So finally they agreed upon that. So the wife gave the fruit to the cow, and after some days her sister got a baby. Immediately that baby was transferred to Atmadev's house. And then Atmadev heard the crying, and he was happy, and okay, he thought he got a child. And they named this child as Dhundhukari. At the same time, maybe a few weeks later or so, the cow ate the fruit, which was divine. So cow also gave birth to a child. Instead of a calf, the cow gave birth to a boy. But it was coming from the cow, so the boy got the ears, which is like the cow. So only the ears, rest of the body is like human. So they named him as Gokarna. Karna means ears, and Go means, one of the meaning is cow. So they got Gokarna and Dhundhukari, two childs. So Atmadev was very happy. Now this Gokarna came because of the fruit given by the sage. So it was a divine fruit. So Gokarna became a nice devotee. Very pious, very humble, very strictly following religious principles. And Dhundhukari came from the sister's womb, and sister was also not so straightforward, or at least not pious, etc. And all this transfer happened, which was to some extent was cheating Atmadev. So that boy became a very arrogant child. And as they grew, Gokarna was nicely following principles of devotional service, etc. But Dhundhukari started stealing right from childhood. It is described that when he plays with other kids, sometimes he kills the child. I don't know, something like that, to that extent. And as he grew, he became a thief, and he started plundering and drinking and doing prostitution and all sort of bad things. And Atmadev was very, very unhappy with that. He could not do anything with that son. So he finally left home, went to the forest. That's it, disappeared. And Gokarna was still living there, mother was still there. And this Dhundhukari was creating a lot of problems and even threatening the family. So Gokarna also thought, I don't want to live here. He went out and started living elsewhere, following his nice services. And mother is alone at home. And at some point of time, he was threatening the mother, if you don't give me more money, I will kill. That to that extent. Then mother got depressed, and she went and jumped into a well. So she also left her body. Now Dhundhukari is alone. He thought, now I don't have anyone to look for. I can just live like whatever way I want. And he started inviting prostitutes, and he brought 5 so-called wives, actually prostitutes, and he started stealing. Finally, he realized that these 5 ladies are demanding so much, necklaces, saris, and this that. So he couldn't give them enough. So he started stealing from the king's palace. One day he went to the palace and he stole so much of wealth, and he came home. So the wives, they were happy that so much wealth came, but they were very afraid that now the soldiers from the king's palace will come very soon, will come. Then they will arrest him, but they will also arrest us, the 5 wives also. They were afraid. So they together killed Dhundhugari. It's described that 4 of them tied him, and the 5th one, put some hot charcoal into his mouth, like a terrible killing. So untimely death. And due to that, Dhundhugari was very, very sinful. So after his death, he could not get another body, but he was having this subtle body alone, that is a ghostly form. So he was roaming around with the ghostly form with so much desires, but no body to satisfy the desire. So one day, Gokarna came to know about this stuff. So he was thinking, I should do this Shraddha ceremony for my brother so that he will attain at least Pitraloka, etc. He did that, but even after that, that did not work because Dhundhugari was so much sinful. Even the Shraddha ceremony could not help him. And that day night, he felt the presence of ghost. Gokarna felt the presence of ghost, and then he realized this is Dhundhugari's ghostly form still roaming around. So he was feeling very compassion. He wanted to save this ghostly form, his brother, from that form. So he started meditation next day, and he was meditating to Suryadev, and Suryadev appeared, and he described the situation. So Suryadev told, if you want to liberate him, there is only one way. Conduct a 7-day saptah, Srimad-Bhagavat saptah. So immediately Gokarna started making arrangements for the saptah. So he used all these bamboo sticks to make a pandal, and then he made a small stage, mandap, and invited many devotees, many people around to hear. And this ghostly form is roaming around Gokarna only, because now Dhundhugari only knows Gokarna. So he invited the ghostly form of Dhundhugari to sit on a bamboo stick. So it's described that ghosts can only sit within a bamboo stick, not anywhere else. They cannot sit in a chair or bed, etc. And this bamboo stick was kept near the mandapa where the Bhagavatam was spoken. Gokarna, he's a qualified devotee. He himself spoke Bhagavatam. And this stick was there, and this stick had 7 notes. 1 note on the top, second one little below, like that. Because 7 days of Bhagavat Katha, indicating 7 notes. And then Dhundhugari, ghost, is sitting on top. And then Gokarna started speaking Bhagavatam, and 7 days he spoke. At the end of first day, the first note got broken. So that means the ghost is coming down a little bit. End of second day's Bhagavatam, second note got broken, etc. After 7th day, all the 7 notes got broken, and that indicated that this ghost, Dhundhugari, got liberated. And immediately Gokarna was able to see a Vimana coming from the sky, and Vishnudutas came to take Dhundhugari. So Gokarna was expecting so many Vimanas, because so many people were hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, including one for himself, but only one came. So Gokarna asked the Vishnudutas, we are all hearing the same Srimad Bhagavatam. I was speaking, everyone was hearing along with this ghost Dhundhugari, and same amount of time, etc. Everything same. Why only he is taken? Why we are not able to go? Then the Vishnudutas mentioned, Dhundhugari, he was paying complete attention to Srimad Bhagavatam, and he wanted to take all the essence, instructions into his own heart. While everyone else, many of them were hearing, some people were a little bit distracted, some people were just hearing to the katha only, the story, enjoying. After that, after going home, they started their own business. They were not completely serious in applying this. But Dhundhugari, because he was in the ghostly form, it is so much of suffering in the ghostly form. So he somehow wanted to come out of that situation. So his complete attention was in Srimad Bhagavatam. So he got purified. So he was able to go back home, back to Godhead. And Gokarna started this Bhagavad Katha again, mentioning this to all the audience there. And then at that time, second time, everyone paid complete attention. And then they all got, it's described that all of them were able to go. In another Vimana came after the next 7 days and they were all able to go. Anyway, in the essence of Srimad Bhagavatam here is, even as a very, very sinful person like Dhundhukari was able to get liberation after hearing Srimad Bhagavatam with complete attention, which is very important. All those four, faith in the words, humility, and by that time this ghost got into all those principles. He was very humble, complete faith, and control the mind means he was completely focusing Bhagavatam only, nothing else. And then completely intelligent enough to apply that, or at least absorb the instructions. That is the potency of Srimad Bhagavatam. I will just mention real quick one more aspect and then stop. So this is about how to develop taste in Srimad Bhagavatam for all of us, because sometimes we hear the same pastimes again and again. So there is a tendency that I know this pastime, so let me, not hear this now, or let me do something else while hearing because I know this, things like that. It happens. There is a chance. But how can we develop taste in hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam again and again with the same attention? Like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to hear Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj stories again and again. He was demonstrating that. So Srila Prabhupada mentioned that, yes, this is a stage of ruchi which comes from Adav Shraddha, initial faith, then Sadhu Sangha, association of devotees, then Bhajana Kriya, then we start practicing devotional service, Anartha Nivritti. So our anarthas will slowly go away. Then we will go to the platform of Nishtha, very firm faith and firm devotion. Then ruchi comes. So it won't come all of a sudden. It has to start with little bit faith, but main thing is Sadhu Sangha. With Sadhu Sangha, we will do all these practices and Anartha Nivritti will happen naturally and we will be completely fixed. So famous set of verses in first canto, second chapter, starting with this Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto hi Abhadrani Vidhanoti Suhril Sada. All the anarthas from heart will be removed by hearing the Krishna Katha. But the verse before that is Shushrusho Shraddha Danasya Vasudeva Katharuji Syan Mahat Sevaya. So by serving the pure devotee, Mahiya Sampada Rajo Abhishekam, Prahlad Maharaj also mentions. By serving the pure devotee, we will develop the ruchi, eventually, ruchi for hearing Krishna Katha. So I'll just read one more translation. This is from Prithu Maharaja, hearing from Sanat Kumara about again the glories of holy name. And in that purport also Prabhupada mentioned very nice sentences. So I'll read that and then stop the description. So the translation, this is from 4th canto, 22nd chapter, 25th verse. Attachment for the Supreme can be increased by practicing devotional service, inquiring about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, applying Bhakti Yoga in life, worshipping the Yogeshwara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by hearing and chanting about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These actions are pious in themselves. So we don't need separate pious activities, just hear the Bhagavatam. Now in the purport, Prabhupada describes very nicely, to become fixed in devotional service, one has to become completely cleansed from the contamination of the material modes of nature. For work in devotional service, the first item is Adav Guru Ashrayam. One should accept a bona fide spiritual master, and from the bona fide spiritual master, inquire about one's transcendental occupational duties, Sadharma Pracha, and follow in the footsteps of great saintly persons, devotees, Sadhu Marga Anugamanam. These are the instructions given in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. And then he concludes like this very beautifully. The conclusion is that to increase attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one has to accept a bona fide spiritual master and learn from him the methods of devotional service and hear from him about the transcendental message and glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this way, one has to increase his conviction about devotional service. then it will be very easy to increase attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the principle which we are asked to follow, to increase attachment for Krishna, accept the spiritual master and hear from him about the message and glorification of Krishna. That way our conviction will increase about the process itself, and then we'll follow it very seriously, and that way attachment to Krishna will be stabilized. So I will stop here and invite devotees to give their realizations or any corrections or recommendations. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prema Vardhan Prabhuji, Dhanyavad Pranam, Jai Shri
Hare
Prabhupada.
Krishna. Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the very wonderful, presentation of your lecture. So many, bringing up so many good points from different, scriptures. Very nice to hear. You made the main focus of this, verse, hearing about the glories of the Supreme Lord through Srimad Bhagavatam, which is very nice to hear, Prabhu. You quoted so many verses very wonderfully. I like basically the points you have mentioned in the translation. He is giving so much actually, right? The translation itself, like, Supreme Lord, always he will be with his pure devotees. We cannot alone just worship the Supreme Lord, but we can worship the Supreme Lord along with his devotees, because he himself will be he's always with his devotees. He's not alone at any point, right? So what is the point in worshipping only Supreme Lord? Some people think that, okay, worshipping God is more important than, being with the devotees and, respecting devotees and worshipping the devotees and hearing about the devotees, right? But this point is very, very wonderful, Prabhu. It touched my heart actually. And another very wonderful point is, if we see just one time, if we can hear about the Supreme Lord, then we feel, to hear about him more and more, that, right? Just one time, if we could be able to hear about him, we feel like, hearing about more and more glorification of the Supreme Lord.
Right.
So that is also very nice, Prabhu. And if we are anyway, we cannot see face to face the Supreme Lord, but we can, by hearing it, and then taking association of hearing the pure devotees, we can always remember the pastime of the Supreme Lord, his name and fame and qualities and everything, right? So that is also nice. And you mentioned one more point as Srila Prabhupada, that is why emphasized in opening the temples and keeping the deity over there, so that anyway at this point of time, you mentioned that we cannot see Lord face to face, at least we can have the darshan of the deity of the Lord, right? So
Yes,
that is also making so much sense, Prabhu. And you have mentioned the beautiful verse. Actually, I always like that verse regarding importance of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, even though you have mentioned only one point, one sentence in that Dharmo Pujita Kaita, that 1.1.2 verse, Srimad Bhagavatam. Very, very wonderful verse, Prabhu, actually. Thank you so much. Yeah, if we have time permits, we would have read that actually. Very nice actually. And also you quoted, Prabhu, 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 29 chapter 38, 39, 40 verses. Translations are very, very wonderful. The conversation between Narada Muni and Prachina Barhisat regarding King Puranjana, how he has come out of this material existence, right? It was very tough. He was so much attracted to his wife and all that, Puranjana. So it was very tough for him, but finally, he came out of that, right? So that is also, so by hearing Achyuta Kadha, how even in the 3rd canto you have mentioned 25.25, Kapil Dev, that is, especially when we are, stressful in our lives, by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we can get a lot of relief. So that is also very nicely understandable, Prabhu. And you have mentioned about Punyadhama, that is also from Bhagavat Mahatya, Prabhuji, that example.
That I don't know where I heard that reference was not given, so I don't know the reference. But it's some devotee was describing.
Yes, Prabhu, very nice story actually. And from especially Bhagavata Mahatma, you have mentioned 4 do's and 4 3 things even we should avoid and watch. That is also very nice. Faith in Guru Vakya and controlling our mind, winning over our mind, and how to hear Srimad Bhagavatam with humility and all that. And also how do we focus, full concentration we have to hear, right? That is,
Right.
and what we should not do also, Vishaya, Aishya, and Aishwarya. You mentioned it very nicely, Prabhu. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
And finally, this Gokarna pastime, actually, very nice, wonderful example, Prabhu. This I have heard from our, Rompa Swami Maharaj
Yes, yes.
a
Me
few
too,
times, a few
Right.
times, and it was very nice
Yeah.
at that time also. Thank you so much for repeating that pastime one more time for our, benefit, Prabhu. It was very nice. Atmadev story and all that, how,
Yeah.
And regarding this 7 knots you have mentioned, 7 days Srimad Bhagavatam, the Dundukari coming
Yeah.
out of each one knot, is that any, is there any significance of the 7 knot? Does it represent anything, Prabhu, practically?
In the past time, it describes that Surya Dev mentioned you have to read for 7 days. So because of that, Gokarna did 7 notes. But I don't know,
what exactly the knots represent and what did he come out?
It's just 7 days. Each note is each day. Dundugari was getting purified to some extent, so he was able to come down to the, like that. So more than that, there is no description given, specific description.
So there is no description. Okay, there is no description of what kind of knot he had,
Yeah, that
surpassed.
at least I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. So, and very, very important final point, really, Prabhu, actually touched my heart is, how to get the taste of, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Because some devotees, even devotees, sometimes I get surprised, at my home only, they feel, already I heard this story, already I know this story, already I heard this story. Many times, right from childhood, I'm hearing these stories. But I don't understand because, as you said, we have to cross over the stages of anadha nivritti and comes to the nishta stage, then maybe we can get the taste of hearing about this Srimad Bhagavatam. Even though we have heard it so many times, still we feel like hearing the pastimes of the Lord, right, when we have a taste. So that's what, right, one should actually I feel that one should develop that kind of stage. They're thinking that, oh, this pastime already we know, and why this preacher is again repeating the same story, we are getting bored. And this kind of thing we should go, right, True? So
right.
For that we have to develop taste. Actually, now I realize, I can answer now. If somebody points out like that, I can tell them that, okay, you have to develop taste, or we have to develop taste of, we have to come to that stage that we never get bored of hearing pastimes of Supreme Lord, even though we have heard it so many times previously.
Yes.
That point, actually, thank you so much, Prabhu, mentioning that. I'm so happy to hear your lecture, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for nicely reflecting all the points which I might have forgotten also. You gave it a good summary of the glorification of Bhagavatam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Would anybody else like to express appreciation or reflection or questions?
Thank you, Prabhu, Prema Vardhan Das Prabhuji. It is very wonderful speech, and I heard first time this Gokarna and Pingadari story. It is a very wonderful, heart-touching story, and my understanding is 7 days means in 7 that is in everything is 7 days is the duration of time. Yeah, I don't know elaborately, but that is there. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
I think there's a appreciation from Anita Mataji in the chat window saying thank you so much for the very enlightening lecture.
Mataji. Thank you, Mataji.
So I really thoroughly felt engaged in hearing this lecture. It was very nice philosophy and nice examples that are instructive of lives of devotees and those that are so-called not devotees. Something I really like from Chaitanya Prabhu, he said, they're pure devotees and they're those that are going to become pure devotees. That's just the plan of the Lord. but all very nice pastimes and nice instructions. Reflections that I had, I think your lecture was very clear. I didn't have questions per se on that, but reflections I had were, in the purport, I found the most important thing that I read here was Srila Prabhupada's in the third sentence where he says, and in serving the senses, he's never tired. I thought, gee, that describes me so well. Never fatigued, and no matter how tired you are, you're never too. One is never in material life. One is never too tired to serve the senses.
Right.
I thought that was one thing I took away, being more self-reflective. One very nice thing I heard from Bhujan Prabhu on these two verses was that he made the point that if attraction to Krishna occurs in one's heart, even after only slight association with Krishna through his devotees, who can estimate, the intensity of the love and the feelings that the Pandavas have? We're getting attracted just by hearing from somebody who's heard from somebody who's heard from somebody, and they have, such intense association with Krishna. Who can estimate that? That was one thing I'd heard. The other thing I heard from Bhujan Prabhuji, I read it in, on his Lotus Feet when I was reading through that book, that actually it is the Bhagavatam which helps one to remember that personality one has forgotten. And it does that by both increasing a longing to remember as well as showing us a method to remember. And I thought that was very nice statement by Prabhuji. So Bhagavatam is the method because it's creating longing and also the process. And then something very nice I heard, on because the Nashta Prayasha Bhadrasya Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya verse applies to so many, about hearing. And I had read a glorification of Srila Prabhupada that the person Bhagavata, that Nashta Prayasha Bhadrasya Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, is somebody who's actually assimilated the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam and is living the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam, teaching the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam. And by serving such a person, one will, get the benefit of serving Bhagavatam. That we may not be scholars of Bhagavatam, but if we serve the person Bhagavat, then we'll be as good as Bhagavatam. And I thought that was very instructive, that how Acharya has, because his total life is absorption in the example of Bhagavatam. And by approaching that Acharya, one can be Bhagavatam.
Right. Yeah.
So those are just some thoughts I had from readings I had from Bhujan Prabhu, appreciation of Srila Prabhupada.
Very nice points, Prabhu. Thank you for adding this one very important, very specific points.
Yes, Prabhu, Desachan Prabhu, thank you so much for wonderful points you have mentioned. Thank you for sharing.
I'm just repeating, Mataji, I know nothing. You know that. I'm absorbed in senses which never feel fatigued. So, Prema Vardhan Prabhu, it's always very nice to see you present, and Radhakund Mataji, it's nice to hear you summarize. I've tried to give lecture and you summarize nicely, and I think that's nice for our group because it's repetition, is at the heart of the process too. So that's good. And one thing I read about Srila Prabhupada calls about offenseless hearing, and I was reading about that in the writings of the acharyas and senior devotees, and they were saying offenseless hearing really means that, we've heard of offenseless chanting and offenseless this and that, but it's rare. Why does Srila Prabhupada pick offenseless hearing? And one thing I read was that meant hearing with the intent to apply it in our lives. That's what offenseless hearing means, that I don't just hear it, but I actually want to apply it. And that's really wonderful when we have that. So I heard a lot of nice lessons here. I really like the story about, how, one hearing Bhagavatam and serving the devotees, attracts attention of even someone so pure as Mother Ganga. That's very nice. So many nice instructions and pastimes. Thank you, Prabhu. a very enlivening
Thank-
lecture,
yeah.
in my opinion.
Thank you for the opportunity for my purification and serving.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Convey our obeisances
Stop
to your
here.
wife and daughter. Hope
Yeah, yeah.
everybody and families, everybody's okay.
Yeah. My
We miss
obeisances
you.
to all the devotees there in Portland congregation.
Yes.
We have the memories, good memories there.
Prema Vardhan Das Prabhu ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktavrindi ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhyo Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
Please
Thank
come to
you.
temple at 11:30 if you can. Program ends at 2:30. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.